if you look at the mockup that we had earlier, it is made up of various components. The first one being the header component on top, which is named as header, and then we have the next component called add, which has a form. We then have a list, and within the list we have another component called company, and the list is made up of several company components. And finally we have a component called details below to display all the details. So let's create all these components and then add interaction between them. So to start off, let's create a header component, and let's open inbuilt terminal within Visual Studio Code. To generate a component, the command is ng generate component, and let's create all the components within a folder called components within the app folder. And to do that, type in components slash, a component name is header, and hit enter. So it creates header component within the components folder, and header has the HTML, CSS and the component cross text TS file. Alright, for some reason, if you don't want to have the dot spec generated automatically, and if you want to change the prefix or remove the prefix, you can do those settings within the TS file or within the Angular CLI JSON file. So what you can do is you can say spec false, save it, and then the prefix is right here. You can change it to anything you want. I'll leave it as is as of now. And if you want your default styling to be SCSS instead of CSS, you can change that as well right here within style ext. So instead of SCSS, you can give SCSS, and you can rename the main file to SCSS as well. Just make sure you don't have any problems. Okay, save the CLI file. Now let's generate another component called add. So this time, as you can see, it generated SCSS file, HTML and TS file. It did not generate the spec file. And to style our elements, let's install Bootstrap and refer it in our Angular CLI file. To install, open the terminal, npm install Bootstrap and save it as a dev dependency. Okay, now that we have Bootstrap installed, let's refer it within our Angular CLI file within the styles tag. So how we do that is go to node modules, Bootstrap, dist, CSS. So make sure you have given the right path to the bootstrap main.css file. Save it, and then let's try to add Jumbotron class and see if this works. Jumbotron is a class that belongs to Bootstrap, so save this as well. Make sure Webpack compiles successfully, and then navigate to your application. Awesome, we have Bootstrap working, and we have integrated a third-party library within our Angular application through Angular CLI. Also, if you see, once we added the custom components, the app module automatically imported the custom components and added it to the declarations array. So if you don't happen to add these in declarations, and if you happen to use those components in your application, it will throw an error. Okay, so let's go to our main component. Let's take out all of these and let's call a header component, which is app header. Okay, and this is the name that we get from the header components ts file, that is right here. And also let's add add component. Okay, save all your files. There you go. So we see the header component on top, and below that we have add component as well. In the next one, let's add the respective elements to these components. Stay tuned and subscribe. Cheers.